Hello, and welcome to another edition of RayderSports. Hey guys, what's going on? Ken Rayder here for RayderSports. How are we doing today? Coming to you, as I always love to do, bringing you some of the latest news stories in the world of sports, keeping you up to date on everything going on with the pandemic, with its effect on the sports landscape. We had great news yesterday when we talked about the MLB Players Association receiving the proposal that was approved by the owners to begin at least the first rounds of negotiations to getting this started and getting baseball back in our lives. So from that great news yesterday, unfortunately today I have some more depressing news and three teams that I fear for the NCAA season. When it comes to football, their fates have already seemingly been sealed. As the clouds of uncertainty begin to part on what's going on as we get closer and closer to the season, if you haven't heard by now, the California State University system has suspended on-ground classes. This means that if the athletes cannot get onto the field, if the athletes can't get into campus, how are they going to get to the field? And three teams in the FBS are going to be very well hindered by this whole thing. The three teams in the California State school system that will be affected are all Mountain West teams from the West Division of that Mountain West. And least of my concerns, San Jose State. It's great to have them in, but they're the least of my concerns. They're not really a team I ever think of when I look at the pairings and everything. And when I make my projections on the Mountain West, I never assume that San Jose State is going to be a team who contends. But the other two teams I have always felt are probably the 2 and 3 in the Mountain West and in any given year. And those are Fresno State and San Diego State. Because when you look at it from a historical standpoint, you go, okay, Boise State is the top, Boise State is king. Then I naturally go to San Diego State. We see the revenue that they bring in. The basketball team at times are amazing, as we saw this past year. Their football team, I always felt like, are the chief team in the Western Division of the Mountain West. I always feel like they're the team who you have to knock off, like Hawaii did this year, to end up winning the tiebreaker and getting into the Mountain West Championship. Or pretty much every year it's a safe bet that San Diego State is going to be somewhere taking on Boise State in that Mountain West Championship game. Now, if you take out San Diego State, then I go down to Fresno State, and then Nevada, and then Hawaii. Like, that's just, and then Utah State, and then everything kind of bottoms out from there when you start getting into Wyoming, Colorado State. You know, not that I'm trying to, diss on these teams, not at all. But come from a historically competitive standpoint, they're just not on the same level. And so with the fact that Fresno State is also a team who seems like their fate is sealed due to this decision by the California State University system, we are now going to lose three teams from the Western Division, meaning we're probably going to have to move one team, probably Nevada, from the mountain to the west, creating a very unbalanced Western Mountain. And when you take out San Diego State and you take out Fresno State, it really leaves Boise State to be this once again, this dominant power. And I'll guarantee you the odds for Boise State winning this conference this year are going to be astronomical and through the roof, because Air Force is not going to be what they were a few years ago, or last year, sorry. Boise State is not going to be what they were. Air Force. Utah State, they just lost the best quarterback their program ever had. Wyoming is Wyoming, pretty much they're 6-6, 7-5. They went 8-5 this year. Good, solid, but really struggled actually inside the conference, only going 500. Then you got Colorado State, New Mexico. And so it pretty much, it's going to leave this great, I don't know, the Mountain West just does not feel complete without San Diego State and Fresno State. Fresno State had that magical run where they'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. San Diego State, at times, are a very solid team. They can play with the big boys. They don't typically win, but at least they're not a team who's going to get blown out by 40 points. It's not a game you're going to schedule against San Diego State where you're just giving them a paycheck to get beaten down. That doesn't happen with San Diego State. It's a very competitive program. And if San Diego State can't go, and Fresno State can't go, Air Force is going to bottom out. Utah State lost their best quarterback, as I said. Wyoming, Colorado State, New Mexico, they're what they've always been. And we won't have a San Jose, we won't have a Fresno State. UNLV's pretty bad. And so it really leaves us with Hawaii and Nevada. And maybe if Air Force can have a bit of a drawback, but not too terrible, they might be able to at least compete against a Boise State type. But being in the same division, it may not matter. But guys, this is something I'm really worried about when it comes to the college football season. I believe these three teams probably will not take the field, and making it an absolute devastating blow to the Mountain West Conference as a whole, to college football as a whole, because San Diego State is a team that the Mountain West just can't do without. I pray that this gets resolved and that San Diego State and Fresno State and San Jose State can take the field and we can have everything as it should be. All the teams playing together, even if it's without fans. But I fear that's not going to be the case. I have other fears and issues when it comes to Chicago has a big outbreak. What does that mean for the Northwestern program? The president of Arizona came out and said they don't see the season starting, but he said he's looking into what the Pac-12's planning on, if they're going to go into conference only, and there's all kinds of scenarios being flown out there right now. We could go on and on for days about it, but it's just not worth trying to figure out things that we don't know. But this is the first real solid idea that I've seen coming out, is the fact that these three teams are pretty much done. And I pray to God that's not the case. I really do. But if there's no classes on ground, and there's no students on ground, then there's no athletes on ground. There's probably not going to be much practice time. There's probably not going to be anything really we can do. So unfortunately, it seems like San Jose, San Diego, and Fresno States are out the window for 2020. And I feel the same way that the outlook is not good for teams in Maryland, Rutgers, Northwestern. I don't think New York has an FBS team, so at least that's okay. But in the FCS, that's obviously, there's a lot of New York teams over there. And then we got to look at Boston College might be having issues. So it's just going to be one of those. We'll just have to wait and see. But we just got to hope for the best. Hope, pray that we can get back to the seasons as we've always known them to be, even if we're only watching on TV and we're not in the stands. No marching bands, no cheerleaders. Just let the boys play and let us enjoy and watch. Until next time, guys, this is Ken Rayder signing out. Leave your comments in the comment section. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. And about this one seems pretty big to me. That the 3 California state schools in the Mountain West most likely will not be there. If I had to say right now from everything I'm hearing, it's quite heartbreaking, actually. So if you guys like this content, smash that like button, leave your comments below, and I will see you on the next one where I talk about the Rams' new uniforms. Are they good? Are they bad? Find out later. Goodbye.